Have you ever noticed, like, young people today are just on a different wavelength? Like, they're
Yeah.
more anxious, more sensitive.
Mm.
We're diving deep into Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation to understand why.
Oh, interesting.
It's got all these surprising insights about why Gen Z seems to be struggling.
Okay.
But it's not just all doom and gloom. We're going to look at some solutions, too.
I like that.
Get ready for some aha moments as we explore the great rewiring of childhood.
Okay.
Why kids are actually anti-fragile,
Hmm.
and how we can all help build a healthier future for them.
That's a big topic. It's really fascinating how Haidt sets the stage in this book.
Okay.
He compares raising Gen Z to sending the first generation to grow up on Mars.
Mars.
Yeah.
That's a bold comparison. Is
Right.
he talking about, like, literal space travel?
Not quite, but the analogy is powerful.
Okay.
Think about it.
Okay.
Kids today, they're completely immersed in the internet and social media.
Mhm.
It's this world that didn't exist for previous generations. So in a way, it really is like an alien landscape.
I see. Okay, so the digital world is their Mars.
Exactly.
But how does this connect to anxiety?
Well, the book argues that this alien environment can have some pretty serious consequences
Okay.
for mental health, especially.
Okay.
Around 2012, rates depression, anxiety, and self-harm among teenagers, they just shot up.
Wow.
And not just in the U.S. This is a global trend.
Really?
Yeah. And the book really emphasizes that it's not just about overdiagnosis or teens being more open about their struggles.
Okay.
The data really points to a real increase in serious mental illness.
That's pretty alarming.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we, as a society, were prepared for the impact of all this.
You know, Haidt calls this period between 2010 and 2015 the great rewiring of childhood.
Interesting.
This is when smartphones and social media went from being just these novelties to being practically essential parts of kids' lives.
Yeah.
And because their brains are still developing, it fundamentally changes how they interact, learn, and develop emotionally.
Wow. If I think about when I got my first smartphone, I mean, as an adult, even I felt like it changed how I interacted with the world.
Right.
To be going through those developmental years while the whole landscape is shifting,
Exactly.
that must be incredibly intense.
It is. And that intensity is where the concept of anti-fragility comes in.
Okay.
You might think it's the opposite of fragile, but it's more nuanced than that.
I'm intrigued. How can something be both fragile and anti-fragile?
Okay, think of it like a tree.
Okay.
A tree that's never exposed to wind will grow really tall and slender, but it's going to be weak and easily toppled.
Right.
But a tree that endures some wind stress will develop strong, deep roots.
Making it more resilient.
Exactly. Haidt argues that kids are similar.
Okay.
They need challenges, setbacks to grow stronger.
So you're saying that shielding kids from every difficulty might actually be doing them a disservice.
Yeah, that's precisely what Haidt suggests.
Interesting.
He sees free play, especially the kind of risky outdoor play that was common a few decades ago, as crucial for developing this anti-fragility. It teaches kids to manage risk, overcome fear, and become resilient.
Okay.
It's like the difference between getting a few bumps and bruises as a kid versus developing anxiety about every potential danger.
Now that you mention it, I remember those old photos of playgrounds. They're practically obstacle courses
Right.
compared to the ones today.
Exactly.
So are you saying that we've become too protective as a society?
Well, Haidt refers to this as the overprotected generation.
Okay.
Since the 1980s, there's been this growing culture of safetyism.
Yeah.
Parents are more fearful, and kids have less freedom to roam, explore, and just learn through their own experiences.
Yeah.
And ironically, this overprotection might actually be contributing to the rise in anxiety. That's a fascinating paradox. Right. Trying to protect kids by limiting their experiences might actually make them more vulnerable. It's like we've traded scrapes and bruises for fear and anxiety.
Precisely. And it's not just about physical safety.
Yep.
It's also about emotional safety as well. By constantly supervising and shielding kids from every potential upset, we might be preventing them from developing the coping skills and confidence they need to navigate life's challenges.
It makes you think about all the anxieties adults face, relationship troubles, work stress, financial worries.
Right.
If kids aren't getting those practice runs on a smaller scale,
Yeah,
it's no wonder they're feeling overwhelmed.
totally.
But isn't there a balance to be struck here? I mean, we can't just throw kids to the wolves.
Of course not. It's not about neglecting kids or putting them in danger.
Okay.
It's about finding that sweet spot
Okay.
where we provide support and guidance while still allowing them the freedom to experience, explore, and even fail sometimes.
Okay.
Remembering that failure is a part of learning and growth.
That makes a lot of sense. But we can't talk about Gen Z's anxieties without addressing the elephant in the room. Oh, yeah?
Social media.
Right.
Does the book delve into that?
Absolutely. Social media plays a huge role in Haidt's analysis,
Okay.
particularly when it comes to the differences in how it impacts girls and boys.
I've definitely heard the argument that social media is particularly tough on teenage girls.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, Haidt suggests it's a few factors. First, the intense social comparison that happens on platforms like Instagram.
Yeah.
Where everyone's curating their perfect life.
Right.
And it can leave girls feeling inadequate.
Yeah.
Then there's the pressure to conform to unrealistic beauty standards and how quickly emotional distress can spread through online networks.
It's like this constant feedback loop of insecurity.
Exactly.
What about boys?
Yeah.
Does the book address how social media affects them?
Yeah, Haidt suggests boys are often more drawn to video games.
Oh, interesting.
Which can lead to a different set of challenges.
Okay.
Like isolation, disengagement from the real world.
Spending hours immersed in these video games can take away from time developing real-world social skills and pursuing other interests.
It's interesting. In both cases, it's like it's not just about the content of what kids are consuming online.
Right.
It's the sheer amount of time.
Yeah.
Like it's displacing other crucial developmental experiences.
Exactly. That time displacement is a core concern.
Okay.
When it comes to this phone-based childhood.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this beyond mental health.
Okay.
This deeper spiritual cost to our hyper-connected lives.
Okay.
And this one affects all of us, not just Gen Z.
What does he mean by spiritual cost?
Yeah.
Is he talking about religion?
Not specifically.
Okay.
He's talking about that sense of emptiness and meaninglessness that can come from being constantly online.
Oh, I see.
He draws on wisdom traditions like Buddhism and Taoism, which emphasize presence and connection to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
To explore how our constant digital engagement might be preventing those experiences.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
Right.
And feeling increasingly disconnected.
Yeah.
From what truly matters.
Exactly.
My relationships, my values, even just the beauty of the world around me. It's like I'm trading genuine connection for fleeting dopamine hits.
It's a really insightful observation.
It gets to the heart of what he's trying to convey, right?
Yeah. He's urging us to reflect on our relationship with technology.
Okay.
And ask ourselves, is it bringing us closer to what matters most or creating a sense of emptiness?
So we've got this Mars generation grappling with anxiety in an overprotected world, all while drowning in social media and feeling spiritually disconnected.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bleak picture,
Sure.
but I have a feeling the book doesn't just leave us there, right?
Yeah, right.
There has to be some hope, some solutions.
He doesn't shy away from the challenges.
Oh, okay.
But he also offers a hopeful path forward.
Okay, good.
But he's clear that it's not a quick fix.
Okay.
And it requires a shift in our values and practices. As a society. It's about collective action.
Okay.
Not just individual solutions.
Okay, now I'm really hooked. Tell me more about these solutions. What exactly can we do to create a healthier future for young people?
Yeah.
And maybe for ourselves, too.
Right. We were talking about how creating a healthier future for young people requires collective action.
Right.
So let's unpack Haidt's recommendations, starting with what governments can do.
Okay.
One of his big points is the need for something he calls a duty of care.
Duty of care.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean in this context?
It means enacting laws that hold tech companies accountable for protecting children online.
Okay.
Think of it like this. If a company were selling a toy that was physically dangerous to kids, we'd expect regulations to protect them.
Yeah.
Haidt argues that we need a similar approach for the digital world,
Okay.
acknowledging that these tech platforms can be risky to children's mental and emotional well-being.
So instead of relying on tech companies to self-regulate,
Right.
we'd have clear legal guidelines to protect kids in the digital world.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Does he give any specific examples of what this duty of care could look like?
Yeah, he points to the UK's age-appropriate design code as a model.
Okay.
It sets standards for how online services should be designed to safeguard children's privacy, safety, and well-being.
Okay.
For example, it pushes companies to minimize data collection from kids, make privacy settings more understandable, turn off addictive features by default.
Those sound like positive steps.
Yeah.
What else does Haidt propose on the policy front?
He advocates for raising the age of social media access.
Really interesting.
Currently, most platforms set it at 13. But Haidt argues that given what we know about brain development and the potential harms of social media, that's simply too young.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He suggests aligning it with other milestones, like getting a driver's license, raising the minimum age to 16.
That's an interesting idea, but how would we actually enforce that?
Right.
It seems like kids could easily lie about their age online.
It's a valid concern, but the book proposes a solution. Device-based verification.
Okay.
Parents could essentially flag their child's phone or computer as belonging to a minor.
Oh, okay.
Websites and platforms would then recognize that
Yeah.
and require parental consent for access.
So it's like creating a kid-friendly internet experience.
Yeah,
Similar to how we have kids' menus at restaurants.
exactly.
It puts the control in parents' hands.
Right.
Without making the internet overly complicated for everyone else.
Yeah.
What other policy recommendations does he highlight?
Another interesting one focuses on our anxieties about physical safety,
Okay.
kind of going beyond just the digital world.
Okay.
He proposes what he calls reasonable childhood independence laws,
Okay.
which aim to clarify the legal definition of child neglect. These laws would ensure that parents who allow their kids age-appropriate independence, things like walking to school alone or playing unsupervised at the park,
Yeah.
aren't unfairly accused of neglect.
So it's about pushing back against that culture of fear we were talking about, that safetyism
Exactly.
that can lead to kids being constantly supervised,
Right.
micromanaged.
Haidt argues that by giving kids more freedom to navigate the world,
Yeah.
even if it means they get a few bumps and scrapes along the way,
Right.
we're actually helping them develop the resilience and resourcefulness they'll need to thrive as adults.
That makes a lot of sense. But Haidt doesn't just focus on policy changes.
Right.
He sees a vital role for schools, too,
Oh, yeah.
in creating healthier environments.
Absolutely.
For young people, let's talk about that. What does he envision for the future of education?
He uses these two really evocative terms, phone-free and playful.
I like that.
He suggests creating schools where students put away their phones during the day,
Okay.
not just in class, but during breaks and lunch, too.
It's almost like building a digital detox into the school day.
Yeah, exactly.
But how realistic is that?
Right.
I can imagine pushback from students and parents.
It would definitely require a shift in school culture, but the book argues that the benefits are worth it.
Okay.
By creating spaces where kids aren't constantly on their devices, we open up opportunities for real-world interaction, creativity, even just plain boredom.
You know, boredom often gets a bad rap.
Right.
But I think it's essential for creativity and imagination.
Totally.
When you're constantly stimulated, you don't have the space to let your mind wander.
Right.
Come up with your own ideas.
Exactly. It gives kids that space to think for themselves, connect with each other, and explore their own interest without the constant distractions
Yeah.
of notifications and the pressure to be online.
I see. But that's just the phone-free part. What about the playful part?
Right.
Yes, tell me more about that.
Okay.
How would a playful school look different?
Imagine schools that prioritize recess, unstructured playtime, even opportunities for risk-taking.
Interesting.
Think back to those old playgrounds with the tall structures and the fast-moving equipment.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't about putting kids in danger. It was about allowing them to test their limits, overcome their fears, and build that resilience.
It's like we were talking about earlier with the concept of anti-fragility.
Exactly.
We've become so focused on protecting kids from every potential harm that we've forgotten how important it is to let them experience manageable risks and challenges.
Right. And the benefits of play go beyond just physical development.
Okay.
Haidt highlights research showing that recess can actually improve academic performance.
Oh, wow.
By giving kids a chance to move their bodies, socialize, engage in creative play, we can boost their attention, focus, and creativity when they return to the classroom.
So it's not about seeing play as a distraction from learning,
Right.
but as an essential part of it.
Precisely. Haidt even suggests some concrete ways schools can incorporate more play,
Oh, like what?
like things like play clubs during lunch or after school,
Okay.
programs like the Let Grow Project, which encourages kids to take on small, independent challenges in the real world, like walking home from school alone or going to the store for a neighbor.
I love these ideas. It's about shifting our mindset
Yeah,
from seeing kids as fragile beings who need constant protection to seeing them as capable individuals.
exactly. And it's not just about the kids themselves.
Okay.
Creating this more balanced and playful environment would benefit teachers, too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Imagine how much easier it would be to teach a classroom full of kids who are energized, focused, and engaged because they've had a chance to move their bodies and socialize.
It makes so much sense. So we've talked about the role of governments and schools
Yeah.
in creating healthier environments for young people.
Right.
But ultimately, a lot of this comes down to what happens at home, right?
Exactly.
What advice does Haidt have for parents who are trying to navigate all of this?
He offers a series of practical steps that parents can take to foster a healthier relationship with technology
Okay.
and the real world within their families.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the first step?
One of the most crucial things is delaying the smartphone.
Okay.
We already touched on this from a policy perspective,
Yeah.
but it's just as important at the individual level.
Okay.
The longer you can wait to introduce your child to a smartphone, the more time they'll have to develop their social skills, explore their interests, and build their resilience in the real world.
I can see how that makes sense. But what about families where the smartphone ship has already sailed?
Right.
What advice does he have for parents who are dealing with teenagers who are already glued to their devices?
Even if your child already has a smartphone, it's not too late to course correct
Okay.
and create a healthier tech culture
Okay.
within your family.
Okay.
And it starts with modeling healthy tech habits yourself.
So it's not just about telling your kids to put down their phones.
Yeah.
It's about showing them how to use technology in a balanced way.
Exactly.
Oh.
Think about it.
Okay.
If you're constantly checking emails during dinner, scrolling social media before bed, or responding to texts while your kids are trying to talk to you, what message are you sending?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Haidt emphasizes the importance of creating device-free zones
Okay.
in the home, like the dinner table or the bedroom.
I love that idea. It's about setting boundaries.
Yeah.
Showing your kids that real-life connections are more important
Right.
than what's happening on their screens.
Exactly. What other practical steps does he suggest?
Okay.
Haidt also recommends using parental controls
Okay.
to limit screen time and filter content.
Okay.
It's not about being a helicopter parent or spy on your kids.
Right.
It's about providing them with structure and guidance,
Hmm.
especially in those early years when they're still developing their self-control,
Right.
critical thinking skills.
Well, it's like giving them training wheels.
Yeah.
As they learn to navigate the internet.
Ex-
And as they mature, you can gradually give them more freedom.
Right.
What about the time that's freed up when we limit screen time?
Right.
What are some good alternatives?
That's where those concepts of free play and real-world experiences come back in.
Okay.
Haidt encourages parents to prioritize activities that get kids moving, exploring, and interacting face-to-face.
So things like playing outside, joining a sports team, taking art classes, or even just hanging out with friends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about giving them those opportunities to develop their physical skills, social intelligence, emotional resilience, sense of adventure.
Yeah.
It's about raising kids who are comfortable in their own skin, confident in their ability to navigate the real world.
I love that. But raising kids can be so challenging.
Yeah.
Especially today. Are there any specific red flags parents should look for
Yeah.
that suggest their child's tech use might be becoming problematic?
Haidt highlights several warning signs. One of the most obvious is if your child is constantly on their device to the point where it's interfering with their schoolwork, sleep, or relationships.
So it's not just about the quantity of screen time, but also the quality.
Exactly.
No.
Are they spending hours on social media comparing themselves to others or getting caught up in online drama?
So it's about paying attention to how their tech use is affecting their mood, behavior,
Yeah.
overall well-being. What other warning signs should parents be aware of?
Notice if they become withdrawn, irritable, or anxious when they're away from their device.
Okay.
Those could be signs of addiction.
Okay.
Also, look for changes in their sleep patterns, concentration, or ability to complete their schoolwork.
It's about looking at the whole picture,
Yeah.
not just the screen time.
Yeah.
But what if you notice these warning signs and try to talk to your child about it, but they're not receptive?
It can be tough, especially with teenagers.
Yeah.
But Haidt emphasizes that it's important to stay involved, set clear boundaries, even if it leads to some conflict.
Right.
Remember, you're not their friend, you're their parent.
Yeah.
Your job is to guide them, support them, and sometimes even protect them from themselves.
Okay.
He also suggests seeking professional help if you're concerned about your child's mental health or tech use.
It sounds like finding that balance between Giving kids freedom and providing them with guidance.
Yeah.
Support is key. This has been such an enlightening conversation, and I can't wait to hear more about how to apply these ideas in my own life. It feels like we've uncovered so much.
Yeah.
I can already see how these ideas could apply to my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Even though my childhood was pre-smartphone, pre-social media,
Right.
I'm starting to wonder if maybe we've lost sight of some essential truths about childhood
Yeah.
in our quest to protect kids from every possible harm.
You've hit on a really crucial point.
Okay.
Haidt's book isn't just a critique of technology
Okay.
or modern parenting. It's a call to rediscover what it means to raise resilient, resourceful, well-rounded human beings in a world that's constantly changing.
It seems like a big part of that involves shifting our mindset,
Yeah.
both as individuals and as a society.
Mm-hmm.
We need to move away from this fear-based approach to parenting
Right.
and embrace a more empowering, trust-based model.
Exactly. And that's what Haidt refers to as the gardening approach to parenting,
Okay.
as opposed to carpentry.
Interesting. I like that.
With carpentry, you have a very specific blueprint,
Okay.
and you try to shape the wood into this predetermined form.
Yeah.
But with gardening, you provide the right environment, nourishment, and support.
Okay.
And then you trust the plant to grow in its own unique way.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of trusting our children's innate capacity for growth, resilience. We don't need to control every aspect of their lives.
Right.
We need to give them the space to explore, experiment, and even fail sometimes.
And to embrace those failures as opportunities for learning and growth.
Yeah.
Remember, a tree that's never been exposed to wind will topple over in the first storm.
Right.
It's those challenges and setbacks that make us stronger.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the anxious generation, what's the one key message you hope listeners will take away?
The most important takeaway is this.
Yeah.
We are not powerless
Okay.
in the face of these challenges.
Okay.
We have a choice to make.
Okay.
We can continue down this path
Yeah.
of the phone-based childhood where anxiety and disconnection are the norm, or we can choose a different path,
Okay.
a path that leads to a healthier, happier future
Okay.
for young people.
And it's not just about protecting them from something.
Well,
it's
that's right.
about empowering them for something.
Yeah.
For a life of meaning, purpose.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about remembering that childhood isn't just a waiting room for adulthood.
Yeah.
It's a precious time for exploration, discovery, and growth. A time to cultivate the skills and qualities that will help our children thrive.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping that world.
Yeah.
Parents, educators, policymakers,
Right.
even just as individuals,
Yeah.
making conscious choices about how we use technology
Yeah.
and engage with young people.
And sometimes that starts with something as simple as putting down our own phones, stepping away from the screens, connecting with the real world, with nature, with each other, and with the present moment.
It's a call to action for all of us. Let's create a world where childhood is once again a time of wonder, resilience, and joy. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the anxious generation.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all you learners out there, keep seeking out new knowledge. Keep asking those tough questions and keep working to build a better future for yourselves and for generations to come.